Hello, once again, it's Matt and Pete from the Bright Click. I'm here with another update on one of the topics and subjects that we kind of operate within as a business. And today, we touched upon this previously. We're going to expand on it a bit today, Pete. It's email marketing. I remember when I started the business, Pete, 12 years ago, somebody said to me, email marketing will be dead in a year. They said you won't need emails anymore because Facebook Messenger's taking over and all these different ways. And email is old hat. It will die out. It will die dead. But 12 years on from that, I say it's just as strong as it's ever been. Maybe even stronger.
Yeah. Well, I think firstly, I think you're absolutely right there. I think that there are different ways that people like to contact, and instant messenger and stuff like that are clearly ways that people like to be contacted, and people like to contact when you're talking about kind of hot questions and stuff like that. But yeah, the reality is that people do have downtime, and we all have it, where we have a 10-minute break here and there, or our hour lunch break where we kind of check our emails and we have a read through, and we might see something that piques our interest, and then that's when we then give it a read. And that's where email marketing can still be so strong, and it still is really strong. And we have some amazing case studies to kind of back that up, which I'd love to go into more detail in maybe in another video. But we've had some really good examples of it working. So yeah, I mean, in terms of talking about email marketing, firstly, I want to say at the end of this video, or if you're listening on the podcast, at the end of the podcast, I want to give a really, really cool tip for email marketing. So definitely stick around for that. But in terms of what it is and why it's effective, so obviously we all know what email marketing is. We all have an inbox, and we all have loads of emails coming in every single day. Some of them go into our junk folder, thankfully, as some of them are obviously just completely useless. And some of them go into our inbox, and some of them we just delete straight away, and some of them we read. But the most important thing for me is that when we're sending out email marketing, is that our list is really important. So it's a way of communicating with your clients, usually your brand advocates, people that are already on your list, people that have already bought from you or used your service, and almost as a way of retargeting them with a new offer, or keeping them up to date with kind of what you're up to and stuff like that. So for example, at the Bright Click, as you know, Matt, we do it all the time. We use email marketing to keep in touch with our current clients or clients of the past. It's very, very rare that we have a situation where a client leaves us for any negative reasons. So most of the time they want to stay on our list and keep in contact and stuff like that. And so that's what we kind of use it for. Obviously, it'll be completely different. If you're a restaurant, you want to be sending out emails, to promote your services, to promote your food and, offers and stuff like that. And then similarly, if you work in automotive, you want to promote all the different services within your sector and your business and stuff like that. And it's just a way of being able to communicate with people. Another marketing avenue. I mean, we spoke about in a previous video marketing pillars, multiple marketing pillars, and how important that is. And this is just another one of them. So yeah, it can be really effective. You can get some amazing open rates, and if you're nailing your open rates, generally it means that people are interested, and they're going to then click within the email itself, and your click-through rate's going to be good as well. So as long as you do everything, via best practice and stuff like that, then it can be an amazing tool.
Absolutely that. Yeah, I mean, we've seen real success in breaking down our email list, as you just said, like, segmenting them.
Yeah.
I think, the lapsed client thing is very powerful, because you do want to stay in touch with people that you're no longer working with, and they do occasionally come back, and the way that you can stay in touch with them is by sending them a nice email every now and again. We've got some other lists that we use. We have an inquired but didn't buy list, which we really like as well, which is around people who wanted us to send a proposal. We sent a proposal, but we didn't get that deal over the line. Quite often they might get a website built, but then they want to come back and later on get Google Ads or SEO or something like that. Again, it's really important that we're able to stay in touch with them and to keep them updated with value-added stuff. So I guess the next question is for anyone who was thinking of dipping a toe in the water where email marketing is concerned, Pete, is how easy is it to actually set up a platform?
Yeah, well, I mean, generally every email provider is going to be very similar, and yeah, very simple. We we tend to use MailChimp as our preferred email provider. One of the main reasons I like to use MailChimp is that I find that because it's very, very well known, a lot of email clients, Outlook and Hotmail, stuff like that, whatever it is you use, tends to not trigger spam filters when receiving emails that come from a domain which is being hosted by MailChimp and stuff like that. So, generally we tend to use that. But of course, you may well use the email provider that sits within your CRM, or another one that you just prefer, or one that's cheaper, or one that's been recommended to you. Generally, they'll mostly be the same. You'll have to verify your domain with it, which is nice and easy. And then, upload your list and your list of clients, and away you go, really. There are some GDPR hoops that you do need to jump through. And whilst that has calmed down a lot in recent years, it's still good practice to make sure you get people to re-opt in and stuff like that. Generally speaking, though, people that buy your products and buy from your website and get added to your list will most likely have signed up to receive emails from you. That's another thing, is making sure that it links up with your website, but we'll get into that in a little bit. Generally, the setting up of it is nice and easy. And in terms of the cost, it can range really. You can literally do it for free if you have a very kind of small list to begin with. And as your list kind of gets bigger, depending on how many emails you plan on sending out to how many people, it can cost a little bit more. But you're never going to get, to begin with, if you're a small business, you're never going to be spending more than a couple of £100 a month. And as I say, it can be very, very effective because it is another marketing pillar.
100%, absolutely. And there are various platforms, as you said, MailChimp being I think the industry kind of leading one now, and the one that we've used over the that we use for clients on a pretty regular basis. What about the costs of MailChimp? Is it expensive?
Yeah, well, as I say, generally speaking, you are looking at around the £200 to £300 mark, depending on how much of a big list you've got. But it also can be free, depending on the size. So there's price plans and all of that stuff, which is all available to have a look at before you even log in. And it's worth noting, I mean, you mentioned about MailChimp there. I mean, they literally send out billions of emails a month on behalf of millions of clients. They literally send out that many, so it's all very community driven and community built. Everything, all of the recommendations you get and all of the all of that kind of stuff is purely fed by the amount of emails they send out. So in terms of costs, it can range anything from free to a couple £100 usually. And if you're massive and you've got a really, really big list, it may well be quite a bit more, but presumably if you're targeting that many people, you've already got quite a lot of brand advocates, who are ready to re-engage and rebuy and stuff like that. So it's worth having a look at the size of your list, and also maybe seeing how much you can trim that down to begin with. Are there people in your list that aren't necessarily going to be decision makers, or are there people in your list once you upload it and start sending emails out that aren't engaging? Once you send a few emails out, you can start seeing how much your emails are being engaged with, and you can start trimming them.
So one thing I get objections for, I guess, when I'm talking to potential customers in relation to email marketing are things like, I always delete my emails when they come in, or something like, I don't like sending those kind of emails out because I just feel that people will delete them or unsubscribe, or they're not interested in them. It's a very, very common objection that I hear. And the one that I always go back with is that generally, whenever we send a mail shot out, first of all, we're always trying to provide value. We're never really selling. And secondly, that within that kind of value, we're trying to give something away almost that the user can benefit from, and actually almost look forward to receiving our emails, because there'll be some kind of information in there. And it's very, very unusual that we send an email out and don't get some kind of traction back, whether it's an interest in the service that we provide, or just a reply to say, hey. Just to quickly touch on that as well, I sent a mail shot out about 6 months ago, and somebody responded to that mail shot who I haven't heard from in 10 years. And we've ended up building a website for their estate agency, which is going to go live imminently. So Can you think of a good reason not to not to be mailing your list? You know.
I have those questions as well from clients, and to be fair, I have that a lot. I have clients say to me, I don't click adverts on Facebook, so why would I want to Facebook advertise? I don't click the ad section on Google Ads, so why would I want to click that? I delete my email, but the proof is in the pudding. When you start seeing the amount of open rates you get, and you start seeing the amount of click rates you get, just because you don't do it doesn't mean that your customers don't do it. And ultimately, clicks tell a story. It's not like back in the day where you would pay to have yourself in double page spread, and you would just kind of hope that somebody reads it, and you might kind of go, well, I don't usually read these articles, so I'm not going to advertise. And you wouldn't have no evidence to back up that that was true or not. But the reality is, when you start producing good marketing, and I'll come on to good content in a second, when you start producing good content and sending it out via email marketing, you will start seeing high open rates, and you will start seeing higher click rates. And the reason that you're going to see those things is because you're sending out good, relevant content. And that is just as important as using that marketing pillar in itself. So you've just mentioned a good example there, Matt. I can tell you why that client re-engaged with you after 10 years. It's because you've been sending them good content for 10 years, and they've been constantly seeing it, and they wanted to get in touch with you again, and all that great stuff. And it's all to do with the content.
100%.
We delete emails that are just completely irrelevant to us, and that come through, and we think, oh, that's spam, or that's not interesting to me, and stuff like that. But people don't delete emails if they receive them and go, that's really interesting to me. I really like the sound of that. I'm going to open that email. Wow, this is some really good, well thought out content. This is a really strong call to action. I need to click this and go to the website. And that is my answer to that, really. If your content's good and your content's relevant and you're not spamming people, they will open it and they will click it.
And on the same subject, Pete, I think I don't have a problem with anyone unsubscribing. Like, if people don't want to receive the content that we're sending out, that's absolutely fine. And I certainly don't take offense. I've had friends and family unsubscribe from our email list. But okay, I'll have a chat.
Not mentioning.
No, exactly that. No, definitely. But you know who you are if you're watching it. You know who you are. But it's so I quite like getting unsubscribes in a way, because it means that we're narrowing down the audience that we're actually targeting as well, right? So you want to get their open rates high. Then to get the open rates higher, really, you've got to shift some of the people who don't want to receive your stuff in the first place, right?
Exactly that. And people will unsubscribe, and some people, when they set up their email marketing, the first thing you're going to notice when you first start sending that email marketing is you've got really high open rates, and you're going to be like, wow, this is amazing. The first couple of emails you send out always have really nice high open rates, because if the first couple of emails people have received from you, they go, wow, I've not seen this before, I'll go have a little look. But you'll also receive higher unsubscribe rates, and people can feel a little bit down about that, but I totally agree with you. I see it as a positive. I see it as a way of refining the list, honing the list, and naturally the next emails you send out will have higher open rates, because only the people that want to be there receiving them are going to receive them. And then, as I say, there are going to be people which are which don't engage as much. Maybe they don't really check their emails, or maybe they just see it and delete it. But there will be people that in there that are interested. So yeah, there will be unsubscribes, but unsubscribes can be seen as a real positive as well.
100%, absolutely that. Yeah. So look, we talked about the actual kind of manual sends, if you like, of emails, like mail shots, like weekly send, fortnightly send, monthly send, whatever you want to do. But there's other things that you can utilize email marketing really effectively for, right? And one of those, you mentioned CRM earlier on, Pete. We use HubSpot here at the Bright Click, where you can sort of get the automated emails into the system, where people are receiving emails because of actions they've taken, or workflows they've gone down, or paths that you kind of want the user to take. Then it takes on a whole different dimension, right?
Yeah, no, it does. And I mean, you're right. You generally you might want to send out the occasional newsletter, which you kind of create whenever you need to. You might want to post out about a blog, a piece of news, a press release, whatever. When it comes to automations, that can be really, really exciting, because You can have an automatic response to somebody who, I'll give you an example. You could sync MailChimp with your website. So somebody signs up on a particular landing page or your contact page, automatically feeds into MailChimp with a tag which explains that that client has come from this page. So therefore they need to go into this automation sequence. And that automation sequence could, for example, be, thank you for signing up. We'll be in contact with you soon. And for more information, you can read a bit more here, which is then followed up by another email, for example, maybe a week later saying, are you still considering using the service? Well, here's a few more examples of how it works, which can then be followed up by another automation, maybe a couple of weeks later, which says, we still haven't heard from you. We'd love to book in a time to chat, for example. And that automation can be sent in different directions as well. So, for example, if somebody takes action within that automation, they get sent down a different path where, for example, they say, yes, I am interested and I do want to, well, they get removed from that that marketing spiel, for example, and they get moved into more of their interested list, someone for you to take action with. And from a consumer perspective, it might be that you run a restaurant, for example, and you want people to sign up and put their birthdays in and then have an automation that's sent to them around a particular date, i.e. their birthday, with a specific offer or something like that. So automations, there's so much you can do with them, and automations themselves probably warrant their own video, because there's just so many different things you can do. Auto replies, marketing nurture campaigns, as I mentioned, birthdays, sends it on specific dates and stuff like that, segmenting people into different lists depending on what their behavior is once they're in your marketing list, and once you're sending them content and emails, and what they then do with those emails. They can then be moved into different parts of the automation and stuff like that. So there's tons to do there. That's a bit more of a phase 2, I would say. So say, for example, you were setting up your email marketing, I would suggest get it set up, get something sent out to your clients to explain that they're in this list. It's really important to you that you want to send them regular content going forward. Let them know exactly why they're there and what they're going to be receiving. And then you can start looking into some really kind of meaty automations that all link up with your website and feed your CRM and stuff like that.
Really great advice. I mean, we've been working on something that we're about to launch, which is like what we're calling a welcome sequence. So when we basically have a new lead come into the business, we're adding them to this sequence where they get a welcome, an introductory email to the BrightClick. So it's like, you want to build up this know, like, and trust when you're building relationships with brand new leads or brand new people that have learned about your business. So we're in this process at the moment of when they, after a couple of days of kind of making contact with us, they automatically receive an email that says, we know you're in touch with us and we know we're having a conversation. In the meantime, we thought you'd like to know a little bit more about us, what we do, who we are, how we operate. Click here to read about our Meet the Team. Click here to read some reviews. Click here to come and watch videos like this one on YouTube. It's just about getting that sequence in to kind of say, look, you can get to know us a little bit more. And the only way to do that really systemized and automated is via email, because you're already having that initial dialogue. And then we talk about marketing touch points where those kind of know, like, and trust things build in. And, the old adage that, you've got 7 or 8 marketing touch points before somebody's ready to purchase or ready to buy from you. Well, if you're sending someone 3 or 4 emails as part of those marketing touch points, you're covering quite a few of them off already.
Yeah.
And also, as you mentioned earlier on, in terms of content, that if you've written a blog on your website and it's sitting on your website, you may as well send it out in an email as well, right? Make sure that the whole audience is kind of covered. So all of those touch points gradually build, and ultimately they're building trust and goodwill between your list and your business. So thinking about wrapping this up then, Pete, at this point, so benchmarking is another thing. So you've mentioned open rates, we've mentioned click-through rates, we've mentioned other bits and pieces. What should we be looking at as kind of KPIs, benchmarking kind of elements when we're sending our email marketing?
I wanted to kind of mention this kind of part an explanation of what you should be aiming to achieve, and then also just like a nice little handy tip. So we'll put the link in the description, but essentially the MailChimp have a benchmark web page, which is essentially statistics and benchmarks, which is split up by industry. It's a really, really good feature. It's something you can pop on and have a look at without having to sign up or log in or anything like that. And essentially you can find your industry and see what the average open rate is, what the average click rate is, what the average unsubscribe rate is, and stuff like that. And why that's important is I have some clients say to me, oh, what was our open rate? And I'll say, oh, we had 33% open rate. Phenomenal. And they might turn around to me and say, okay, that sounds great, but I don't know if that's phenomenal. Well, so it's important not to just take my word for it. For example, it's important to have a look at what your industry standard is. As I say, MailChimp, for example, send out billions of emails on behalf of millions of clients. And therefore, their industry statistics and benchmarks is all built from that community. So you can really get a steer very early on at how well your campaigns are performing by having a simple look at this benchmark list. And another reason it's important is because if you're not quite achieving those levels, maybe you might be getting a higher open rate, for example, but your click-through rate isn't so good. Well, you might start questioning, well, why is that? Well, maybe your call to actions aren't so great. Maybe you should have more links within your email linking to where people need to go. Maybe your call to actions just aren't as strong and aren't as compelling. Maybe you need to think about the type of content, not just the type of content you're putting in there, but maybe the offer that you're putting in there. Or it might be that your open rates are just nowhere near what they should be. Or in that case, maybe you should have a look at your subject lines and how well they're performing. And by the way, if you have the paid version of MailChimp, you even get recommended subject lines, which is really, really cool. And there's lots of tips out there on the correct way to write a subject line and stuff like that to avoid spam filters and all of that kind of stuff. So again, the benchmarks thing is really important, just to help you understand how well you're doing or how poorly your email campaigns are performing, and how you can then improve them as well. Because again, like any piece of marketing, it's all about testing and it's all about evolving. So yeah, again, if you want to have a look at that, we'll have it in the link in the description, and definitely go and have a look at that for your industry.
Yeah, it's a really important thing as well. It's understanding how you're performing against others, and as you say, just not sort of sticking a finger in the air and thinking, oh, that feels like a good open rate, or that feels like a good click-through rate.
Exactly.
You might as well kind of benchmark that against the industry, or against give yourself the peace of mind that that what you're doing is kind of working. And
you absolutely should, yeah. And it's worth remembering, you're exactly right there. When you have a look at what the benchmark is for your specific industry, well, they are your competitors. And if you are performing over and above average, then you will be standing out in the market. So it's so important to try and get yourself to that benchmark or above to ensure you are standing out. And it can be a really helpful tool to do that.
Agreed. Yeah, MailChimp has come on leaps and bounds. I remember in a previous role, just before we wrap up, explaining MailChimp before I started the business, trying to get my previous boss to utilize MailChimp, and him laughing in my face and saying, what kind of company would call themselves MailChimp? They're obviously not taking themselves very seriously.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's that says it all, really, doesn't it?
I would say, anything else, Pete, before we wrap up, to sort of summarize?
No, that's good. I think that it's that's a kind of a really brief overview of so just to recap, we've spoken about setting it up, the kind of the minimal costs that can be kind of there, another marketing pillar which we've spoken about in the past, how you can make use of automations, linking out with your website, improving using benchmarks and stuff like that. That's a really kind of simple overview, but as always, the floor is to anyone who's listening to this. If there's anything specific you want to hear about email marketing, we'd love to do a little video on it. So let us know if there's anything there that you're specifically interested in and you want us to dive into a little bit further.
Amazing stuff, Pete. Thank you as always, guys. If you need any info, as Pete says, you know where to find us. If you've got anything you want us to cover, then you can email us info@thebrightclick.co.uk, or find us on the socials. Just a search for The Bright Click. We'll find us in most cases, and look forward to the next one. Nice one.